Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Roundtable's hands-on training workshop on technology and privacy concerns during a pandemic. My name is Melissa Rogozinski. I am the CEO and founder of the Roundtable, and RPC Strategies, our marketing and sales consulting firm. Our speaker today is Dan Burnick. He's a former boss of mine. He's now in private practice in Alabama. Our sponsor is Real Capture, makers of the Tenant smartphone communications governance app. Today's event is the kickoff of the newly rebranded and relaunched Roundtable, formerly ESI Roundtable, or ESERT as some of you know it. Now, I want everybody to remember this workshop is not intended to be a sales pitch or a demo, but rather it is an opportunity to test drive a technology that provides a solution in relation to today's topic. At the end of the workshop, you're going to receive a short survey from Jeannie Pond, our operations manager, and we ask that you take a couple minutes to provide us feedback on the format of the workshop as well as the Tenant app. Please also let us know about any legal technologies and topics you'd like to see in future Roundtable workshops. At this time, please disable your video and mute yourself. If you have any questions or technical issues during the workshop, you can contact Nick Baltazar or Jeannie via Zoom chat. Nick and Jeannie both work here at Roundtable. If you have any technical issues with Tenant app during the workshop component, you can contact Doug Petrie. And with that, we'll hand the presentation over to Dan.
Thank you, Melissa. Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to thank Melissa and the Roundtable and RPC Strategies for asking me to present during this presentation. It's an exciting time, even though we're still in a pandemic, hopefully the tail end of the pandemic, and even as we grow out of it, the issues raised over the last year or so concerning technology and privacy will continue moving forward as more and more people are working from home, will continue to work from home. One disclaimer I want to make is that I cannot make anything up what I'm talking about, and the examples I'm going to use are real. For example, recently, last month, Forbes magazine published an article about ransomware attacks take aim at law firms. Law firms are a target-rich environment, and there have been many attacks on law firms through ransomware and other cyber breaches. Last October, the ABA issued a technology survey report that found that 29% of law firms reported a security breach. 43%, only 43% use file encryption, and less than 40% use email encryption, two-factor authentication, and intrusion prevention. So it's a serious problem, and lots of law firms are not doing what needs to be done to comply with the ethical rules. One of the first big breaches was in 2017 with DLA Piper. Last October, Seaforth Shaw was hacked and had a ransomware. Last May, one of the more notorious cases involved a law firm out of New York called Grubman that represents people such as Lady Gaga and President Trump. They were hacked. The hackers demanded $21 million initially, published 2 gigabytes of Lady Gaga's contracts, and once they found they had President Trump's emails, they doubled their demand of $42 million. So it is a serious issue, can be very expensive. This past February, Jones Day was hacked. In addition to law firms, CNA Insurance Company was hacked last month, and also numerous law enforcement agencies are being hacked on a regular basis. When I started practicing law 38 years ago, I never thought I'd have to tell clients to wear pants when they're in a business meeting. Jeffrey Toobin is a good example of that. Just so you know that there's other issues. Recently in Florida, an elementary school teacher asked parents to wear clothes and avoid appearing with big joints in the background of Zoom meetings. In the UK, a woman was being interviewed on TV about why they couldn't get jobs during the pandemic, and she had a sex toy behind her, which created lots of issues. And just several weeks ago, a Canadian member of Parliament was involved in a Zoom meeting at work, and he was naked. His excuse was he came back from a run, was changing his clothes, and forgot to turn the video off. So please make sure you're dressed appropriately, and you tell your clients to dress appropriately when they're appearing in Zoom. So let's get to the heart of the issue. Last month, March 10th, 2021, the ABA issued a formal opinion 498. What you're seeing on this slide is the actual language of the introductory paragraph for this formal opinion. It talks about must do things, talks about competence, diligence, communication, confidentiality, supervision. It is an 8-page opinion. I would highly recommend that you take 10 minutes and read this opinion. It deals with lots of issues involving virtual practice. And even as the pandemic wanes and we get back to a normal life, hopefully sooner than later, we will continue to work remotely, and we continue to have the ethical issues of doing so. A little more detailed opinion came out of Pennsylvania last April. The Pennsylvania Bar Association issued their formal opinion 20-2300. This opinion deals with numerous issues, including how and where data is protected, verifying the identity of individuals who access your firm's data from remote locations, and implementing compliance with written protocols and contractual security obligations. This opinion is 14 pages long. And again, I would highly recommend that you take some time and read this opinion, because it goes in a little more depth and detail than the ABA opinion as to issues involving working remotely as a law firm and a legal entity. So let's talk about some of the ethical issues that are involved with working remotely from home, or a restaurant or a hotel or somewhere else. ABA Model Rule 1.1 deals with competence, and it says a lawyer shall provide competent representation. What is competent representation? Means you have to have the legal knowledge, you have to have the legal skill, you have to have the thoroughness and the preparation necessary for that representation. When it deals with cyber issues and remote work, you have to know what's going on in your world. Are you keeping up to date with updates in technology? Are you keeping up with changes in various programs and apps and other practice management software that'll help you to comply with the rules? What about court orders? Over the last year, I've seen numerous court orders dealing with court procedures, deposition procedures, court hearings, Zoom hearings. Be aware of what your court requires and what your jurisdiction requires as far as remote work and representation in court proceedings through Zoom or whatever else, whatever other technology is being used. One of the comments to Rule 1.1 talks about a lawyer should keep abreast of changes in the law, including the benefits and risks associated with relevant technology. Even though Alabama has not adopted this particular comment, it is important that, and I firmly believe that I do not want to be the test case should something happen. Even if your jurisdiction does not have this particular comment and adopted this comment, I think it is highly appropriate and important to continue to keep track of what the changes are with technology. Some of the rules that we need to look at when we're dealing with remote work is the confidentiality of information. And this may be the most important rule to look at. A lawyer shall not reveal information relating to the representation unless the client gives consent. And perhaps most importantly, 1.6c says that a lawyer shall make reasonable efforts to prevent the inadvertent or unauthorized disclosure of or unauthorized access to information relating to the representation of a client. When you are working remotely, you shall make reasonable efforts to prevent the inadvertent or unauthorized disclosure of or unauthorized access to your client's confidential information. One of the overlooked rules is 5.1, which says that a partner in a law firm shall make reasonable efforts to ensure that the firm has, in effect, measures giving reasonable assurance that all lawyers in the firm conform to the rules of professional conduct. B also says shall. 5.1c also talks about shall. It is mandatory under the ABA model rules and most state rules that lawyers shall take these steps to make sure that lawyers in the firm are supervised. 5.2 3, which is also overlooked on a regular basis, is that a partner in a law firm shall make reasonable efforts to ensure that the firm has in effect measures giving reasonable assurance that the person's conduct is compatible with the professional obligations of the lawyer. So your legal assistants, your paralegals, your administrative assistants, your runners, your technology department, everybody needs to be trained as to what the responsibilities are concerning the ethical, the rules of professional conduct and the ethical rules. It is important to have policies and procedures in place and regular training as to their responsibilities when it comes to practicing law and how they perform on behalf of the law firm. Let's talk about some of the practical considerations in working in privacy issues, working in the pandemic era. When I talk about privacy in this context, I'm talking about personal versus work. If you're working from home or working remotely, who owns the phone? Is it a company phone or is it a personal phone? Who owns the computer? Who owns the printers? Who owns the copiers? On the phone, if it's a personal phone, how do you differentiate between what is personal and what is work? And again, this is not a recommendation of anybody. This is not an endorsement of anybody. But as we get into the workshop a little later on, one of the things you'll see through the app that you're going to be looking at is one way to separate personal versus work on one device. Whether it's a lawyer, whether it's a admin, whether it's a paralegal, if they're working remotely, we have to be able to separate work versus personal for lots and lots of reasons. It's confidentiality, it's privacy, it's ownership. So it's important to have policies, rules, and regulations in place to make sure that work is kept separate than personal life. Lawyer and staff health issues, whether it's COVID related or other medical conditions, you must be competent and able to communicate with your clients. You have to be able to maintain confidentiality and comply with other rules of professional conduct. Your clients need to be kept informed and need to know if something is happening to you, whether you're suffering from COVID and you're going to be out of work for a couple of weeks, whether it's a heart attack or cancer, your clients need to be made aware if you're not able to represent them or if something needs to be done to either pass it on to a partner or an associate or refer it out to another law firm. As a small practitioner myself, whether it's a small firm or a solo firm, it's important to have a succession plan in place should something happen to you in a small firm or solo context. When it comes to lawyer staff layoffs and law firm closings, and there have been a lot of those over the last year, one of the most important things to consider is that it is up to the client to decide who their attorney is. They get to decide if somebody's laid off or leaves a law firm, who their attorney will be. And at that point in time, files need to be turned over. If files are virtual, they paper, process needs to be in place to transition those files. What about deadlines, whether it's statute of limitations, discovery deadlines, trial dates? There needs to be a way to keep track of those deadlines. A trap lots of lawyers fall into deals with their trust accounts. If a law firm is closing or staff is being laid off, what happens to the money in the trust account? It needs to be accounted for properly. Otherwise, there's risks of disciplinary action being taken against you by your bar. Access to files. Are they paper files? Are they computer files? Are they in the cloud? Are they on a server at the office? The staff need to have access to those files, and you need to be able to get them when you need them. Accessibility, this is referring to your client's accessibility to you and your staff. If you're working remotely, what kind of guidelines are there as far as taking phone calls or responding to emails? Do you take phone calls 24/7? Do you stop taking phone calls at 5, or you don't take phone calls before 9 o'clock? Whatever your policy is, it needs to be put in place and it needs to be enforced. Again, one of the apps that one of the benefits of an app such as the one we're going to hear about later on is the ability to turn off your work phone so it doesn't ring after 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, where it's able to forward it to a staff member or a 24-hour receptionist. But you need to make, you have to have boundaries with your clients. One of those boundaries are you need to keep them in place. One of the other issues with accessibility with staff is most legal assistants and most admins are non-exempt employees that are eligible for overtime. So if they're working from home, how do you keep track of their hours to make sure that they're not working more than 40 hours a week and getting needing to get paid overtime? There are lots and lots of situations that I'm aware of where legal assistants are working more than 40 hours and they're not getting paid overtime. There's lots of some groups I'm a member of where they complain about it all the time. And I anticipate that there will be, and that there are and will continue to be lawsuits over FLSA claims for office staff for working overtime, especially when they're working from home and it's hard to keep track of their time. Virtual proceedings, whether it's Zoom or other various virtual proceedings, what do we need to look at? We need to look at camera angles. We need to look at lighting. We have to look at audio. We have to look at confidentiality. When I say confidentiality, what I mean by that is if I'm sitting in Starbucks making this presentation, it's not a big deal. But if I'm sitting in Starbucks and talking to a client or communicating with a client on a Zoom conference or a deposition, is that confidential? Probably not. I have heard of numerous instances where depositions are taken and the individual being deposed is actually in their car driving down the road. That is not very smart. So, you know, on video proceedings, you know, is there coaching going on? Is a lawyer in the room telling the client what to say or what not to say? Even though you're on mute, if the video is still on, can you read lips and can you see what the other lawyer is saying or what the client is saying? Or can the other side see what you're saying or what your client is saying, even though it is on mute? Safeguards, as with this conference, the host has to admit you. There's a unique ID, so there's a way to guarantee to protect who gets in and who participates. At hearings and other proceedings, how does your client dress? How do you dress? What's the background look like? In depositions, we have to worry about notices. Virtual deposition notices need to be unique. They need to talk about how it's being taken, where it's being taken. Exhibits, preparing exhibits for depositions is difficult. Do you file share? Do you file share, screen share? Do you submit exhibits to the other side in paper? I know of one law firm where the lawyer will actually download the exhibits on a computer and overnight that computer to the other attorney with a password so they can get into the computer and have access to the exhibits on that computer, which makes it a little easier to go through than file sharing or screen sharing and going back and forth with exhibits. As to trials, I've not had a virtual trial. I hope I never have a virtual trial. They're difficult, they're hard to deal with. And if you do have one, you have to prepare for it and make sure that you comply with whatever the judge requires in that trial. Marketing and advertising. Over the last year, how many of us have stopped having client lunches, client dinners? How many of us have stopped having golf or other client activities? How many holiday parties have been canceled? How many in-person seminars have we attended in the last year as opposed to virtual seminars such as this? A lot of law firms have gone to virtual marketing, virtual advertising. Let me just point out that a lot of marketing firms have no clue as what the ethical rules are for lawyers and advertising. Make sure that your advertising marketing company is aware of the legal ethics and comply with them. I know in Alabama, they recommend that you submit any advertisements to the bar for their review. That gives you some protection if they approve it going down the road. And as we all know, commercials and Facebook ads and other virtual advertising has, in my opinion, gotten out of hand over the last couple of years, but it continues and it continues to get stronger and stronger. Technology changes every day. It is impossible to keep up with. However, you have to do your best to keep current. What do you use? How do you use it? Is it updated? Make sure you are familiar with technology for your law practice, whether it's timekeeping, file management, calendaring, whatever the case may be. Disposal technology is also overlooked, especially if people are using their personal devices for work, whether it's a phone, computer, or copier. I cannot tell you how often I read articles about a hospital gets rid of their copying machine, or a law firm gets rid of their copying machine or their telephone, and somebody gets a hold of it and digs into it. And yes, there are records that are maintained on these devices that people can get relatively easily, which means that you have released confidential information to the world if you do not properly dispose of technology. Client intake and supervision. 35 years ago, I used to tell clients, when you, a joke at the water cooler is never as funny as it is when you're talking on the witness stand in a trial. 15 years ago, I said an email needs to be written as if it's Exhibit A in a trial and it's blown up on the wall. Today, I tell people when you're on a Zoom conference, pretend and act like you are standing behind the microphone at the National Spelling Bee. Anything you say can and will be used against you. It will be recorded and it never goes away. Let's talk about confidentiality. And even though it is last, it is probably the most important aspect of what I want to talk about today. When we talk about confidentiality, working remotely, I'm talking about lots of things. Some of the issues involved include Wi-Fi connections. Is it secure? Do you know that your Wi-Fi is secure if you're working at a hotel, or if you're working at a shared office space, if you're working at a Starbucks, if you're working in your car? How many cars these days have Wi-Fi compatibility that are not secure? There are devices out there where people can pretend to be a host and actually can get everything you say and do and hack into your system. A major word of caution: do not let your phone or computer auto-connect to Wi-Fi. Make sure you choose the Wi-Fi connection you want, because if you auto-connect, you don't know where it's connecting to and how long you're going to stay connected to it. If you have Alexas and other similar devices in your home, that is not secure. People can listen to it at the home office of Google. Sometimes they're recorded. Those devices are not secure. Video proceedings. If you're on a video proceeding as a lawyer, I know a lot of lawyers who have blackboards or whiteboards in their office. If you could see this whiteboard on the video screen, does it contain confidential information? Client names or phone numbers or dates of birth or causes of action or strategy. Same thing with the shared screen. I've heard of situations, knock on wood, it has happened to me, where you share a screen, but you share the wrong screen and you put up something that is a confidential communication. It's even as much as having paper on your desk. If my camera is lowered a little bit, you could see my notes here. And does that contain confidential information? Same thing with multiple monitors. Are you showing the right monitor and not showing a monitor that contains information that should not be divulged to third parties? If you're working out of your house and you live in an apartment, how quiet is it? If I'm talking in my office, can my neighbor next door hear what I say? If they can, then there's a serious confidentiality problem. For any device you have, whether it's a phone, whether it's a computer or laptop, is there a remote delete compatibility where if that phone gets lost or stolen, you can delete everything from that phone or from the computer? Encryption: please encrypt your communications. VPN is highly recommended, as are passwords. They need to be strong. They need to change regularly, and don't share passwords, because if you do that, then anybody can get access to your computer. Paralegals, legal assistants, and admins, You need a social media policy. I cannot tell you how many times I have seen posts on quote unquote private Facebook pages where they talk about cases they're working on, including the amount of the confidential settlement, about strategies, about dog cussing their own clients, dog cussing their own attorneys, dog cussing the other sides. There needs to be a social media policy in place. They need to be trained on it, and it needs to be enforced. Finally, when it comes to confidentiality, make sure that you're communicating with who you think you are communicating with. If the video is turned off and you can't see who you're talking to, how do you know it's your client? If you're emailing, how do you know you're emailing with your client? If you're talking to your client, how do you know you're talking to your client? And you need to make sure that you are communicating with who you want to communicate with, and not somebody who is trying to improperly obtain information or otherwise hack into what you are doing. When it comes to remote work is a cyber target rich environment. Everybody is a target, whether it's a legal assistant, whether it's paralegal, whether it's a runner, whether it's your IT department, whether it's a lawyer, whether it's a summer clerk. It doesn't make any difference. They can be a target. For those of you old enough to remember the old Amico transmission commercials, pay me now or pay me later, it's better to pay somebody now to make sure you're prepared to do what is necessary should there be a cyber attack on your computer system. You need to know a cyber attorney, get to know somebody who's familiar with cyber issues, with security issues, and they're there and available for you. Cyber insurance is important, and everybody must be committed to continued vigilance. That means you have to train, and document. Many breaches are phishing attacks. When I worked at a big law firm, I can't tell you how many times, and in fact, I can, it was probably every 2 weeks, we get an email going to everybody saying, we got this email, it's a phishing attack, don't click on it. And what that means is that somebody clicked on it, they had to go clean it up, and they're warning everybody not to do it. So make sure that everybody knows, don't click on links if they don't know who it's coming from and it's not secure. We control your data, you've been hacked. Again, have a plan in place. As the Boy Scouts would say, always be prepared. Who do you call? How long is it going to take? Train your staff, train your lawyers to be prepared should something happen. Also be aware that there are federal and state requirements as far as notification of clients or others should personal identifying information be obtained. That is also a major time-consuming activity. It also takes a lot of money. As far as criminal conduct, yes, it's criminal. Most of it happens from overseas. I actually had a client about a year ago in a loan closing where the hackers were overseas, but two of the people actually were in Miami, and the FBI tracked them down, and they were able to catch them. Unfortunately, there was no money because the big players were overseas, and that's where the money went. It is important that you have choice of counsel, you have choice of cybersecurity consulting firm, you have choice of your information technology providers, and you have choice of cyber insurance. Make sure you know who they are, trust them, and make sure that you're friends. So when there is an attack and something has happened, you're prepared to deal with it. Finally, just to lighten things up a little bit, blow on your coffee mug to convince the rest of the Zoom meeting that it's Zoom, or you just drink some tequila when you're done giving a presentation, which I'm not really good at do right now. I will be around at the end of this seminar, at the end of the hands-on part of it for questions. And at this point in time, I'm going to turn it over to Melissa to get us to the next stage. Thank you for your time. And if you don't have any questions now, but you have questions later on, you have my contact information. Please feel free to call me, email me. I'd be glad to talk with you anytime, any place. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dan. And at this time, we're going to go ahead and hand the presentation over to Ranji Ragbear with Tenant. Ranji is going to take a few minutes to provide us with some information and background about Tenant, and then we're going to spend 30 to 45 minutes on the hands-on training exercises, especially for those of you who have downloaded the app. Thank you very much for doing that yesterday afternoon. At the end of the workshop, we'll have plenty of time for Q&A and some networking. So please continue to keep your videos off and your microphones on mute. Ranji is going to go ahead and start the workshop component. Please right now use Zoom chat for any questions, but once we get into the Tenant app, you're going to see that we can use the Tenant app for some chat. Ranji?
Thank you, Melissa. And also thank you, Dan. That was great. A great background, a lot of information there. As Melissa said, I'm Ranji Ragbear, and I'm a principal with Real Capture. We're the makers of Tenant, which is the platform or the app portion of the platform we're going to look at today. We're really excited about it because it's the industry's first smartphone communications governance platform. It's been designed specifically to give organizations transparency to smartphone communications without compromising employee privacy. So while it does a lot of things, which we can get into if you guys want to contact us one-on-one, today we're just going to focus on the privacy elements of it, and specifically some of the privacy elements that come up due to the pandemic. So we have about 45 minutes earmarked for this section. So we'll just let you know a little bit about our background, how Tenant works, and then we'll get into the workshop. I'm joined today by Doug Petrie. He's the founder of the company. He's a lifelong entrepreneur with several past successes, primarily in the business to consumer space. He actually built a company, which is how I met him as a consultant to him, that went from startup to 30 million in revenue in a blinding 18 months. His primary role with Tenant is on spearheading development, support, and marketing. I myself have been in the legal tech space for over 35 years. I'm a veteran of 4 startups, and for some reason, I always find myself at the vanguard of emerging technologies. Most recently, I was a co-founder of Tribe1 Systems, which was an early pioneer in SaaS and electronic invoicing, and it's now part of CT Corporation, Walters Clore, which you probably know. I worked for them for about 5 years, then started my own consultancy, which is how I met Doug. So between the two of us, we have a few years behind us, and we've been around the block. So with Tenant, we've been working on it actually since late 2017, and we've been focused just on developing the governance components of it. It's taken us quite a while to actually get it right. It's very difficult technology to get right. And it's, for the most part, quite comprehensive. So where we was at last year, March, we were ready to actually launch, but COVID came along and actually derailed us. So we're actually now prepared to launch this year with COVID behind us. And actively looking for law firms, law departments, and vendors to help us tailor the system to the legal industry. So the big problem we're trying to address, Dan alluded to it, is the commingling of business and personal communications and data on a smartphone. In the pandemic, everyone's been asked to work from home. Everyone's been asked to use their personal devices. And that has resulted in a compromise to privacy, but it's also introduced risk to the organization and in some cases, productivity issues. So what Tenant does is it solves this problem by separating business and personal communications from one another on one device, and then giving transparency to the employer only to the business side of the fence. So it does not compromise employee privacy. But there's some other privacy benefits as well. So first off, we give you a separate business-only phone number, so you do not have to disclose your personal number for work. We also allow you to configure the system for how to manage after-hours calls. So after-hours calls can be routed to a colleague, or they can be routed to voicemail, not in the way you probably would expect with voicemail forwarding, and we'll show you how that works in a bit. We also separate your communications from business communications, as we mentioned, but also personal contacts, media, and files. And we also provide separate voicemail boxes and voicemail greetings. So all of these taken together create a more protected, a more confidential, a more secure environment with the eye to confidentiality, as Dan alluded to, and employee privacy. So how does Tenant actually operate? The main things to keep in mind is that we manage a lot of all of the communications on the phone that's would otherwise be considered native. So for example, we don't handle WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or any of that. We assume those are personal, but all call histories, group chat, voice calls, web chat, and so on, we actually have mechanisms to initiate those. So it's almost like having two separate phones on one device. So here's how it works. The first thing we do is we issue a separate phone number on the phone. So if this 99999 number is your personal number that you have had for years, you would get a brand new number, which we would issue you. That separation now gives us control of an ability to separate from your personal data, contacts, voicemail, SMS appointments, and so on, which are completely independent of yours. The data that we manage is managed in-house at Amazon, or you can bring it on in-house. And whereas the data that is with your personal phone is managed by your provider. So your employer would have access to only the information on the left and no access to the information on the right. I should point out to you, Dan had talked about policies, written policies, within your organization. If you're in a BYOD organization, like bring your own device, you probably have signed an agreement with your firm allowing them to collect your personal data from your phone. Not a lot of people are aware of that, but that's potentially one thing you should keep in mind. With Tenant, we actually give you a way to create an environment where that's not entirely necessary. So that's the first thing we do. We separate the business communications from personal. Second thing we do is we consolidate all communications into a single multi-channel inbox. So all communications with an external contact are kept in one place. It's contact-centric, not app-centric. So from a privacy perspective, what you're looking at on screen in this mock-up is business correspondence only. All the information that you get on your personal phone, for SMS, etc., does not get looked at by Tenant. Another thing to keep in mind is the separation of actual data that comes into the environment. In most environments right now, if you get an email and you detach it, you're detaching it to a file location that is accessible even if you were to leave your firm. With Tenant, attachments like this one that may have come in from an email, when they are detached, go to a location which we control, which is also encrypted on the device. So it's high security as well as separation of data. Okay, now that we have the data separated, your employer can actually start leveraging that information for complex processes. So for example, we envision a future where law departments will be able to collect business communications for e-discovery, investigations, early case assessment, and so on without having to confiscate and download everything off the phone. And that's especially true with early case assessment. So the employee's privacy is paramount in our design. We really do not want to give anyone, absent nefarious behavior, any reason to actually go to your own personal data. And the last piece beyond these three things, so separation, consolidation, and now data access, is integration. So we allow the system to be integrated with your external or legacy solutions, so you can tie into timekeeping, your CRM, and so on. One thing that I want to point out before we start the workshop is that the contacts that are in Tenant will come from a system of record, like Outlook. It may be your practice management system, it may be a CRM, but it's not coming from your native phone book, and we'll take a look at that. So with that, we can start looking at the workshop. I'm going to switch gears here and just quickly explain what we're going to cover. And like I said, there are a lot of different things that we can touch on, but we'll look at group chat, 1v1 chat, how we handle media and files, how Tenant handles email and availability, and you'll have time to go into the app to work with it and explore whichever corners and crevices you wish. So before we get started, I just want to put some housekeeping in place. The accounts that we're using are demonstration accounts. These are not to be used for live work. We do not want personal business data communicated or confidential information communicated. Again, we do not upload any of your personal information. Your names are in there, but they're tied to demonstration email addresses and demonstration phone numbers. Even your logins have been demonstrations. So we've gone to great lengths to make sure we're not taking any of your personal information. Obviously, this is all subject to terms and conditions, which you can find at tenant.com. And the only permissions you're going to be asked for are access to your microphone, so you can actually speak on the phone and managing phone calls. There's one other exception, which I'll get to during the workshop. And then also I'd like to point out that I'll be using an Android phone. So when you look at my app, it may not look entirely like yours if you are on an iPhone. So with that, I'm going to stop real quickly and ask Melissa if she has anything before I continue.
So as we get started into the workshop, so ladies and gentlemen, we've been practicing this for the last several weeks. And so for now, we feel that the best way to handle the workshop is continue to keep your videos disabled and your microphone on mute, because for those of you that downloaded the app, you're actually going to be able to do all your communication through the app, through the workshop. If we find it necessary to come back on board before the workshop's over, I'll make that determination. But again, please, for now, use the Zoom chat to communicate with Jeannie or Nick if you're having an issue, or Doug if you're having an issue with the Tenant app. But once we get into it, you'll be able to use the app to communicate. And for those of you that weren't able to download it before the workshop, you're still going to be able to get a really good idea of what this does. And then I think we're going to have about 15 or 20 minutes at the end to do some networking. And when we do that, we'll shut down all the screen share and we'll all show up and have a nice conversation. Ranji?
Sure, thanks, Melissa. Okay, so for those of you who did not have a chance to register with us beforehand, like I mentioned, we're not using live accounts, we're using demonstration accounts. So unfortunately, we wouldn't have had time to set you up, but I'll do my best to have you follow along with the app that I'll be using on screen. So for those of you who did manage to download, I'd like you to go to your home screen and locate the Tenant icon. When you tap that icon, you'll have a login screen which will come up. You've not been given login IDs yet, but you will be. Just to explain real clearly and give you an expectation of what will happen. When you log in, you will be asked for two permissions. One is the microphone and the other is the phone calls. Once you accept those, you'll be at a Tenant home screen. Please just stop when you get to the home screen and stay within lines. Don't go out, leave the playground yet. If you have login issues, contact Doug Petrie in the Zoom chat. He'll be able to fix those for you. But once you're logged in, as Melissa said, you can contact him during with the Tenant app. So the screen that's going to come up, you're going to look for your name, you're going to look for your login ID. And one thing that's very important is for readability purposes, I put spaces in the login ID. The login ID should not have spaces. So I'll give you a moment to find your name. And Jeannie, I'm not sure if you can hear me, but if anyone's not on this list, we can, we'll talk about that later.
Hey, Randy.
Sure.
I have a private message to everyone, but just in case, Cheryl, your partner, is now Jay Stromberg, and then Brandy knows that Dan is her partner. Okay, great, cool. So I'll give you a moment to log in, and then we'll move on. Your password is privacy at 429, all lowercase, @ and 429. And if you get past that hurdle, you'll be asked for two permissions, and then you'll get to a screen that looks like the one that I just brought up.
This is Melissa. When you have logged in, Ranji, can you go back to that login screen real quick so people can see their numbers, please?
Oh,
when
sorry,
you have logged in with your login ID and the password, and you're at that home screen that Ranji showed you, please post the word done, D-O-N-E, into the Zoom chat for now, so we know that we can move on. So we're going to give you all about 2 minutes to log in. Okay.
And while you're doing that, The number, the login ID would be your native phone number so that we can tie it to an individual person. But again, we're trying to, keep this as high level as we can and not have anybody provide any personal information in the app. So Melissa, I'll wait for you to give me the cue to move on.
Yeah, so Marianne is done, Mike Fabiano is done, Jeannie is done, Nick Baltazar is done, I'm done, Rodney Lumpkins is done. I'll call out your name when I see you post. So we had a couple minutes, y'all. Jay is done. Dan Burnick is done. Kevin Marshall is done. Doug, Brandy Domino is having an issue. Can you get in touch with her privately in Zoom chat, please?
Sure, I'll take care of that right now.
Great. Lisa Carroll's done. And I appreciate everybody engaging. I know that workshop is a little bit different from what you're used to attending. I think you guys are really going to enjoy this. So thank you for participating.
Yeah, this is the hardest part.
Yeah.
I'm getting everyone in.
Let's see. I think we still got about a half a dozen people that are still trying to log in.
Yeah, the key things are make sure there are no spaces in your login ID. And the password is lowercase privacy @429.
Okay, it's been a couple minutes. I think we're still waiting on a few people, but let's go ahead and move on to the next part. If you still have not logged in or need help, just Zoom chat Doug and he'll help you, okay? Go ahead, Ranji, let's move on to the next step.
Okay, great. So once you've accepted your permissions, you'll be able to see our home screen. And just let me quickly explain what we have here so you can get oriented, and then we'll open it up so you can actually start tapping buttons. At the very top are quick access icons. These are the most frequently used components of the system. Then we have two core modules and settings. Quick send, we're going to ignore for now. It's just some canned messages which you can create. Of real importance is your tenant phone number. So your login ID would be your native phone number, which you would actually use for your personal side. That allows us to tie it back to you as a single individual. And your tenant number, this number in my case, this 505-364-3404, you should all see a phone number at the bottom of your screen with a 505 area code. That number is an actual live working number. Someone can call it, they'll get you on the phone, you'll be able to talk to them just like a regular phone. And you'll have 30 days with the app where you can actually try it and do it for yourself. System settings I mentioned, the phone access is available on every screen. When you tap that, it'll actually open up a window where you can actually pick names, make favorites, and dial out. And then there's this hamburger menu. And the important thing there is that while you're using the app over the next few weeks, if you have any issues, you can tap the hamburger menu, go to help, and report an issue there. It'll come to us and we'll work on resolving it. Now, with that said, I just want to show you one quick thing in terms of privacy that you should be aware of. I'm going to tap on people. I'm going to bring up my own screen here, my own phone. So you all should be able to see my phone here. I'll just make it a little smaller. When I tap on Tenant and I open up the app, I'm in the app. If I tap on people, notice that these are all of you. These are the names that we've loaded in for the attendees to the workshop. However, if I go back to my home screen and I go to the native, that orange button at the top here, this one. If I go to that, that's a completely different list. That's my personal list that we're looking at right now. And if I go into Tenant, I'm in my business list, which would come from whatever your system of record is. So with that, I really do want to make sure that everyone is aware that this is a true separation of two environments. So let's go back and look at the group chat, which is the first thing that we're going to get into. So if you are on your home screen, you should see conversations. If you tap conversations, you can go ahead and do this. You'll see a group called the Roundtable Group. You can enter that and introduce yourself. So it's tap conversations, find your group, which in your case is Roundtable Group, and then you'll be into the chat, and then you can say, hi, I'm Rogo, or whichever else, and then tap send. So certain things that you might want to include are, you know, hi, I work for this place, I'm having fun, whatever you wish. So I'll give you a second to explore what group chat is like and introduce yourselves to one another. And I'll bring it up for those of you who can't see. I'm going to bring it up on screen so you actually see what's happening. And I'm going to say, in my case, I'm going to type in, hi, this, oops, I just have to spell it, right? This is Ranji. And notice that everyone's name is popping up. Mine, because I'm, you know, orienting this around me, all of the users are going to see theirs coming up on the right, whereas everybody else is coming in on the left. You'll notice that everyone's photograph is there as well. We took those off LinkedIn to just give you an experience of what it would be like in real life. Okay. So thank you for going into that. I'll point out a few things. If you notice at the very top of the screen, it has a members list on mine. If I tap members, I'll be able to see everyone in the list. And if I wanted to, I could add or remove participants just by tapping that orange button. Another thing to be aware of in the group chat is that media, notice this, it says media. If I tap on media, there's no media in the chat. If someone were to upload a file, we would see it. Now, if you keep in mind that, you know, a lot of the consumer apps out there, they automatically tie in to your media and files on your phone. We do not do that. So it's a really important distinction in how Tenant works, is that we're actually trying really hard to make sure that your local device is personal to you and not being brought into our world without your permission. But we'll get to that in a second. Another thing to keep in mind, and I'm going to take my screen off here, is that group chat is just one mechanism. Everything that you're putting in here in terms of chat, in terms of calls, etc., remember, is separated. But group chat is just a way to feel comfortable with the system. And notice that you can search. The plus sign that's down at the bottom right, bottom left, I'd like you to leave that alone for now, because we'll come back to that in a minute. But just pay attention to my screen for a second and remember what I tap. When I tap it, what happens? Notice I can add members, I can see tenant media and files, and I can get to the camera. Keep that in the back of your mind. So I'm going to go back out, and now we're going to do one-on-one chat. I'm going to remove my phone for a minute, and we'll move on to the next piece that we'd like to show you, which is 1v1 chat. So we've paired you up with someone. So for example, Ariadna is paired up with Brandy. I'm not sure if Brandy's been able to get in. Doug, has she been able to get in?
Yeah, Brandy's here.
Okay, and she logged in?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So just look for your partner and just keep, before we go on, so remember, stay inside the compound for a second. Before we go on, just make sure you know who your partner is. I'll leave it there for a second. If you cannot find your partner, or if they don't respond, you can use any of the alternates, Jeannie, Doug, Nick, Dan, or Jay, and they'll chat with you. They won't ignore you. All right, let me know.
They work for me. They won't ignore you, I promise.
Let me know when I can move on, Melissa.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's move on.
Okay, so here's how 1v1 chats. You tap people, you tap people on the home screen. This is one way. There are other ways to get into chat. And then after you tap people, you find your partner's name, you open their profile, and then you tap chat. So it looks like this. People, find their name, tap the chat icon, and then you should be in 1v1 chat. Now you can introduce yourself. You know, I'm in New York, where are you? Whatever it is that you wish to say. So I'll show you how it works with me. I'm going to tap people. I'm going to go down and find Nick. Nick, I'll chat with you. Is that okay? And I will open up the chat by tapping chat. And then I can say, hi, Nick. And then Nick can respond to me. And you notice it'll say he's typing when he's typing. And he says hi. So go ahead and do that. I'll give you a minute to do that, and then we'll come back and look at some of the options that are available to you in 1v1 chat. Actually, let me keep the other screen up. So some icebreakers, you know, what's your favorite hobby? I noticed that, for example, Cheryl, her username, I think, on her email address was Soccer Fan USA or something like that. I'm a big soccer person. So Cheryl, welcome to the world of soccer, right? So let me know when you want me to move on from this, Melissa, but I just want to give people the opportunity to just experience the 1v1. So they know what that's like. Sure. Notice while you're in 1v1 that you can make a call. At the very top of the screen is a call icon. There's also a media. Ignore reports for now, but because that's actually a tie-in, it's not native. We would tie into your system.
Ranji, let's slow down just a minute.
Sure.
Yeah, I've got one person that is needing to catch up.
Okay.
And
That's
I'm
fine.
actually I'm gonna find that person myself on people, and I'm gonna send that person a message just from me.
Okay.
So give me just 1 minute.
So what we're looking at while Melissa does that is really not unlike any kind of messaging system that you may have used. But the good news here is that the kinds of messages we can handle are fourfold, actually. One is group chat. Two is app-to-app chat, which is what you guys have been experiencing. Those chats, app-to-app, are secure in that they're encrypted, both at rest and in transit. There's also web chat. We actually have a capability to do that, which I'll tell you about in a minute. And the third one, in terms of your, walling this off from your own personal side of the fence, is SMS. You can actually do this with someone who is not part of the Tenant environment. So that only one person needs Tenant for this to work, which is very unusual in the messaging world. Most people require both parties to have the app. With Tenant, only one person needs the app, and you get all of the functionality you're seeing. The only thing that you won't get is the security with the people who are doing SMS. So let me know, Melissa, when you want me to.
Yeah, we can go ahead and move on.
Okay, so once you've done that, there's that sent it on. What I'd like you to do is to look in the chat, and I would like you to press or tap the plus sign and hold there for a second. You'll see a screen like this pop up.
Ranji, are we still communicating with the one-on-one person, or are we?
Yes, I'm sorry. You are in the one-on-one. No longer in the group. Correct.
Okay, one-on-one.
One-on-one.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Sure. All right, so we hit the plus. We're in the one-on-one chat, and we're hitting the plus sign so that the menu pops up.
Correct, and I'd like you to just hold there for a minute.
Okay.
Because I'll just give you a quick overview of what these things are, so you know what you can do. And again, feel free to try all of these when you have it on your own. The first thing is to be aware that you can send your contact details to someone else just by saying send vCard. You can also schedule an appointment just like you would with Calendly or with your, not Calendly, I'm sorry, with your native Outlook system. Now, I do want to point out that both send appointment and send email, we are not asking you to change your email environment at all. We tie into your email environment. So everything you're doing here would be from your regular email address. It would land on your regular calendar. We're only giving you an interface to email and an interface to the appointments. We do not replace your existing email. So the big things that I want to point out next, though, are tenant media and phone media and what the differences are. I mentioned it before, but tenant media and files refer to media that are inside the tenant environment that you've either shared with someone or that someone has shared with you. So if you were to tap on phone media and files, the system will ask you for permission to look at your phone media. But I want to stress, we do not load it or load any media in unless you choose to load it in. And that's the only bit of media that we will bring into our environment. Now, once it's in our environment, it becomes part of the tenant media catalog. So it's important to recognize that distinction, because sometimes people tap on tenant media expecting to see everything on their phone gallery and they'll see nothing. But actually it's designed that way to protect your privacy. So you can actually tap on it, go look at it if you wish. Tap phone media, you'll probably see nothing, so you can try those. What I'd like to do now, though, is show you how to, oh, by the way, you can also securely chat with external users by saying send secure chat link, but I'm going to ask you to not try that today at all. The next thing I'd like to do is to talk about sending email. Sending email you can do right from this interface. So you would have tapped the plus sign, you would have tapped send email, and then an email screen will pop up like the one I'm showing here. It'll have your sender email address, which is the demo email address we set up for you. Some of you will have a tenant.com email address. Some of you will have a outlook.com email address. But either way, it's tied to you personally. So you have a sender, a recipient, you type in your subject, just like you would in anything else, type in the message, and then once you've done that, you can tap send. Now, we are, again, going to be tying into that Outlook address and using Outlook as the sending mechanism. We're just sending Outlook or Tenant.com an email saying, hey, we need to get this to somebody else, and that server is the one that's handling it.
So Tenant is acting as a portal. It
Correct.
doesn't store or save anything unless we tell it to. So,
right.
Okay.
So it actually is saved locally, but only a stub is saved. So when you do tap send, you'll notice that in your chat there will be a message in blue. When you receive your partners, it will be in gray. And so you can send any message, you know, hi, how are you?
Are we going to send a Tenant media file?
We can leave that for a minute, okay? Just for right now, just let's have anyone send it. If you wanted to, by all means, you can actually attach a media file if you wanted to, but it'll be coming from your own personal gallery. And you would do that by tapping that attachment paperclip at the top.
Okay, so what action do you want us to take right now? Do you want us
to create an email and send it?
Okay. All right, so send an email to your partner, everybody.
Correct. Okay. Thank you, Melissa. Yeah,
sure.
So, Nick, can you go ahead and send me one?
Sure.
So I'm going to just move forward here, but to just, oh, I'm sorry. Click the wrong thing. So for those of you who are not able to do it in the app, if you look at my screen, I'm in the chat with Nick here at the top, and I've asked Nick to send me an email. So when Nick, sorry?
It's on the way.
Yeah, so when Nick sends it, you know, email's a little slower, it doesn't always come in right away, but in this case, he sent an email, it pops up, and I can actually now view the full message. I'm not sure if he put in a full message, but if he did, it would have a few paragraphs. And this is where we're actually going off, grabbing the message and bringing it in, okay?
I did not send.
Yeah, that's okay, Nick. Yeah, some of the messages you've sent in the past, I don't really like them anyway. So everyone gets the idea. So let me know when you think I should move on, Melissa.
I appreciate you making Rodney Lumpkins my partner. I've known Rodney for a few years.
Uh-huh.
It was really
Good.
nice to be able to chat with him like this.
That's great.
Yeah. So
Well,
yeah,
you
it's
guys
working for Rodney and me. So I'm okay with us moving on to the next step. If anybody is still having an issue, feel free to just enter a chat in the group chat.
Yeah, we're almost done. So the next piece is about availability, and I'll just show you real quickly with slides how it would work, but feel free to do this on your own as well. So setting up business availability is one of the key features of the system. You go to settings. There's an option which says incoming call availability, and you can set your business hours. So you would tap on settings, tap on incoming call availability, and then set your time. But I'm going to ask you to just hold off on that. Just to understand that calls outside of the business hours that you send will automatically be routed to your voicemail greeting. And from there, further options are available. So this is one of those ways in which we can, during the pandemic, where lines are blurred between personal time and work time, where you can actually regain some semblance of control over your time. Now, if you go back to your home screen, which I'm going to do on mine here, notice at the bottom left-hand corner, there is an available button toggle. If I tap it to away, now all calls will go to voicemail. So the key thing here with Tenant is that from a privacy perspective, we know that during the pandemic, you're working from home, you've got to pick up the kids, you got to do all these kinds of things between certain hours. You can set regular hours, but you can also do it on demand. So it's a very important feature from the perspective of setting boundaries on your privacy and your personal time. And again, you know, if you've given out your personal number and someone calls you on your personal number, that will go to your personal side and your phone will ring. So we don't control that. Again, we don't have any control or visibility to that side. So the last thing I wanted to explain is that if you're not unavailable, we give you enhanced voicemail options. And following this part, guys, I'm just going to leave it to Melissa to have you guys, you know, use the app as you see fit. But this part is important. We have a feature which, when you're unavailable, most people, which is quite useful. When you're unavailable, most people are accustomed to leaving a message at the tone. The message is recorded and put to your voicemail. And on the iPhone, I believe you can transcribe it. But Tenant offers more options than just leave a message. One of them is press 1 for call transfer, and up to 10 people, I've got 2 here, an assistant and an associate.
That was me.
Yeah, that's fine, backing me up. So when a call comes into me, the caller can press 1 for live service, and then up to 10 phones can ring. The first person to answer takes the call. So Nick, Doug, and I are going to show you how that works. Nick's going to call me. I'm going to be unavailable, and he's going to press 1, and the call will be transferred to Doug. So I'm going to bring up my screen here on the right. Can everyone see my screen? Okay. I'm going to actually toggle it back to available instead of away. And Nick,
do we want to, Ranji, do we want to do where they can see Nick and Doug doing this in real time, or you want to just use it with your display here?
I want them to see what the subscriber would experience.
Okay.
So the subscriber here, you know, I'm seeing people adding information to the chat. Just hold off on doing that for 1 second, and we'll show you this. And then if you want to, we can actually show you that after. Okay.
Good.
So Nick, are you ready?
Ready to go.
Okay, so Nick's going to call me. Wait, let me tell you when to go. Nick's going to call me. I'm going to decline the call. And when I do decline the call, he'll hear my voice. And when he hears my voice, he'll hear options. Let it play through right to the end, because you have a second or two afterwards, Nick. But right at the end, you can then press 1 for call transfer so that they can hear how one can set it up. Okay?
Got it.
So just watch my screen as Nick makes the call and watch the experience. So just hold off on adding stuff to the group chat so everyone can see it. Okay, Nick, go ahead when you're ready.
Go ahead.
Nick, are you making the call?
Yep. A little hang.
So it's coming in and I'm going to decline it. So now that I've declined it, watch the top of my screen.
Hey, this is Randy from Real Capture. Sorry I'm not available to take your call. If you need immediate live assistance, please press 1 to speak to a member of my team or leave a message at the tone. All messages are recorded and transcribed. Thanks again for calling Real Capture.
Okay, Nick.
Please hold.
So it says Nick pressed 1.
To someone taking calls for your party. Service provided by Tenant.com.
And now it's ringing through. Up to 10 people can hear it.
Well, that's calling me right now, so I'm going to answer the phone and I'll be connected to Nick. Hi, this is Doug. How can I help you? All right, so yeah, so we're connected.
Okay, great. Thank you, Doug.
You got it.
So that caller journey is displayed to you the whole time. So now if I go back to the chat, I can actually go in, see that Nick's call, if you look down here at the bottom, came in, it was missed, and it was transferred to Doug Petrie. I can say, you know, did Doug help, or whatever message I want to send back to him. And he's getting that as a text message if he's calling from a cell phone and is a non-subscriber. He does not have to be a subscriber. He would get this as a text message. And Nick, if you don't mind just replying, he can now reply to it and say, yes, sir. So that's a much faster experience. But again, from a privacy point of view, you're not only protecting your own phone number, you're giving people reasons to want to call the business number and not call your personal number. So I wanted to point that out to everyone because we do consider it to be a component of privacy. So real quickly, the last things, what we just saw was a missed call. They requested a call transfer and we can see who it went to. If he had left a voicemail, the voicemail would have been recorded and transcribed. So with that, you know, we do a lot of things with Tenant on the business side, which I've grayed out to the right. But the big things we've looked at today are separating contacts, separating media and files, separating voicemail greetings, separating communications in general, and giving you a dedicated business number that you have availability control over. So with that, what we'd like you to do is use it. Feel free to schedule a one-on-one with us, introduce it to other people in your firm if you think it's valuable. And we really are looking for feedback. And we do have an early adopter program if anyone's interested that's available as well. So Melissa, that's my piece. I'm happy to let everyone go on and play with it if they wish. And then we can go to the Q&A section if you want to.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and end your screen share.
Sure.
And at this time, we would love to see everybody. So please, by all means, open up your video, open up your microphone. We have 15 minutes. We've made really good time. We have 15 minutes to do some chat. So we definitely want to, Doug and Dan and Ranji are all here available for questions for you all. Lisa, everybody loves my cat. Don't say that.
I have a cat.
Lisa doesn't. Lisa will send him out on the balcony and let him try to jump. Cheryl, you better back me up. So, let's see, gallery view, there we go. Hey, Rodney. Hey, Stan, how are you?
Yeah.
Y'all can unmute yourself, if you will.
I'm fine. I hope all you are well also.
Thank you.
Say that one more time, Stan. How were you? Because I talked to you last night.
Oh, gallery view. There you go.
There we go. Yeah, gallery
Right.
view. Okay.
So, you know, I'd like to apologize to those of you who did not have an opportunity to get the demo. It takes a while to get it set up for a forum like this where we're not using your real information. So, you know, feel free to contact us and we can set you up afterwards as well.
Mm-hmm. Rodney, I'm curious to hear your feedback. I know that we talked a little bit about this yesterday and this morning too. So what did you think about the workshop and the information?
Oh,
And
wow.
tell everybody a little bit about what you do. Do you mind? We've known each other for a while. Will you tell everybody kind of what you do?
Certainly, certainly.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. Thank you guys for putting on the workshop.
You just gotta make sure there's some money, otherwise you ain't getting nothing.
That's okay. Go ahead, Rodney.
Good.
Yeah.
No, you guys are fine, but thank you for the invite to the workshop. I thought everything was well put together. I'm still poking around, checking out Tiger in here, but just a little bit on my background. I've been in litigation support for about 10 years now, and the firm I'm currently working for, I've been here since October, and as lit support manager, I work closely with the IT team, reporting directly to the director, Paul Nolet, and we're always having conversations. As a matter of fact, in our team meeting yesterday, we were just talking about mobile device management and things we can do to enhance our security features. So this is really, really timely. And as a matter of fact, as soon as I get out of here, I'm going to share the app with him. Let him take a look. So I was very impressed though with the technology. It's very timely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We've worked hard at it. It's not easy stuff. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah. And, you know, if everybody else, if you've got video, we'd love to see you. Please jump in. We want to have a conversation, network with everybody. I want to thank my team too, Nick, Jeannie, Jay, you know, Dan. Dan and I know neither one of us look it, but we've known each other for 20 years. We've worked together for 20 years. He was my boss a very long time ago. But it was really exciting when Dan reached out and he's like, hey, did you relaunch the roundtable? I want to speak with, you. And so it's just, for me, it's a really personal honor to, this is our kickoff program for the relaunch of the roundtable, and to have Dan at my side and do this together with him is a really special thing for me. And so I just really appreciate all the work that everybody put into this, because especially with COVID, you know, we typically have done these hands-on training workshops in person, but because of COVID being what it was, you know, we worked on this for a long time, and we really thought, we kind of watched what everybody else was doing through virtual programs, and we want to know from you what works, what doesn't work, you know. And we kind of watched and observed while some of the technical issues that other associations were having, and I thought, you know, if we could replicate this hands-on training exercise in a virtual environment, I think we can really deliver something really special to people that will be engaging and exciting. So I want to hear from you guys, like, how was this for you? Let's talk about data privacy. Let's talk about, you know, communications governance. What were some of the highlights of this program for some of you that attended the program today?
I can say something. I'm Kevin Marshall.
Hi, Kevin.
Hey, I just wanted to say it was a pleasant surprise, because one of my colleagues forwarded it to me and I was like, you know what, I'll sign up for it and see what it's about. But I love the interactive piece, because although I'm a millennial, I hate technology completely. So every time I'm trying to do like systems and automation for my firm, I'm like, please, can I just give this to somebody else, because I hate it. But this actually made me like it a little bit more, and I was able to kind of go in, walk through some of those systems and processes, which will eventually make things a lot easier for the firm. So thank you for this. I thought it was great.
Kevin, where are you located?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, okay.
Yay.
How many guys are down there in Atlanta?
Yeah.
Atlanta is actually the second home base of the roundtable. The roundtable started in Birmingham, but Atlanta's the second home base.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So when we get back to live
I'm in
events,
Athens, Kevin.
yeah, we'll be there in person.
Yeah.
So
I'd like to ask a favor. Well, as many people as are willing, turn on their cameras and smile, because I want to get a nice big screenshot of all y'all's beautiful faces.
yeah, we'd love to see your faces. And Lisa.
And I have a question, Melissa. From the for those who are able to use the app, you know, from a privacy perspective, does it make sense the path that we're taking, because no one else that we can find is doing what we're doing, and that's actually not necessarily a good thing. So what we're trying to do is to really lock down in a simple environment the privacy for the user, but also respect the obligations of the employer, right? To keep those two worlds coexisting but separate, right? Does it make sense?
I definitely, I want to hear, Marianne, what do you think about the privacy component and the question that Ranji has? I know as we've been preparing, I've seen all kinds of reasons why the RPC strategies team is going to want to use the Tenant app. But Marianne, we'd love to hear from you.
I actually don't have much to contribute. Just really, this is new technology for me. I'm just learning it. So I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
But conceptually, anyone, I mean, are we on the right path?
Farron, you jumped in. What do you think?
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Farron, BlackBerry. I think rights management and control of content outside of business systems is growing. Right. It's what brought me here to BlackBerry. I love to see other players in the area, in the space, and kind of where it's going. Right. It's not easy. It's not an easy thing to get our hands on. But
Right.
Data-centric security and rights management is absolutely right tied with process automation and mapping out processes. It's the work that we've got to do to be able to manage our data growth and manage our risk. Right, it's key, I think, to how organizations move forward. So I wish you guys the best of luck. Right, and there's not very many players in the area in the space, so it's great to see some other approaches to it, and right, user interfaces, user interactions. It's a challenge to get people to take the extra effort to manage their content, and I love to see us getting out ahead of it at instantiation or creation of content, because that's where it has to happen. Right, the first thing we do is start to duplicate content, and sprawl happens internally, and then it happens externally. And how do you even know what's in the hands of business partners, associates, folks who have left an organization? Working from home has made this, the problem's always existed, I think, but it's drawn an underline around, holy cow, the animals are all out of the barn.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just with the amount of data that's getting generated each day, it's just growing exponentially. And then when you bring in, the fact that, laws as they're changing in states now, where it's not only that company privacy, but it's also the employee privacy. So people are starting to have much higher expectations about how their data is treated personally. And, it just really all ties together, and it's kind of, where we end up now. It's really going to be interesting to see what happens over the next couple of years as states keep passing these, new privacy laws. Eventually every state's going to have one. So
yeah, eight new ones this year are going in, and California's employee privacy one kicks in January of this year. It was delayed from January 2021 to 2022, so that'll be interesting. And also, I don't know if anyone is following the Facebook versus Apple wars, but there are other privacy implications that, in my opinion, big tech has abused, that I think will absolutely impact everyone going forward. So my big ask of everyone is just for some indication from you all of the tactile feedback. How did it feel using it? Did it feel easy to use? Was it difficult? Was it ergonomic? I mean, were there things you'd like us to do better? We want to hear all of it.
Eric, I know that you had a couple of challenges getting started and getting logged in, but you did get in and you were able to use it in group chats and in private chats with Doug and me. So what are some of your thoughts?
I really liked it, I have to say. I one of the previous commenters, I apologize, I didn't hear his name, but from Atlanta, said that he's not that into technology. I'm a little bit the same. I find it frustrating sometimes, and I get a little overwhelmed. I'm, you know, a little bit old school. I usually have a file on my desk and a, you know, a landline that I'm working with. But I have to say, after I was able to overcome the challenges with help from Doug and you guys, and it was easy. I think I'll use it. I'm kind of excited to give it a shot. The whole call thing is something that's very innovative, and I haven't seen that. I mean, I don't know if I know about every single company that does this, but I know a lot of them, and I haven't seen that. And I have to say that's kind of exciting, because for my type of practice, I have a personal injury practice. We have 5 lawyers, staff of about 10. You know, we probably handle 200 or 300 cases at a time, just to give you some context. And I could see that that would really be helpful. It would really streamline things, make things more efficient, because it would take away all the time of, did you get this message? Did you hear that message? Did you check the message? And so I kind of think you guys did something very innovative. I don't know if that's, you know, the main feature, but I really feel that I'll use it. In addition, I thought that the chat was easy to use. I thought that the group chat you know, the individual chat, I think it was called 1v1. Yeah. Once I figured that out after, I don't know, 30 seconds, I was able to use that quite easily. I thought that the homepage was easy and simple. It's nothing worse than when you can't find things. So I don't really have any, I wish I could give you some criticism that could support your efforts to make it, to improve it, because it's annoying when people always say, oh, it's great, I loved it. But just from where I'm coming from, I don't want to babble on, but efficiency is really important. There's not enough time in the day, and there's more clients than most of us can handle. So the way that we can make the client feel like they're able to reach us, and make the client understand that we are actually responding to them in a, you know, from this app, I can see we could do it very timely. That would really be a big difference. That would help us get good reviews. That would help us get referrals. It would just help. So that's my 2 cents. Eric, do you have an onboarding, client onboarding page? Like if someone, you know, tell us a little bit about your case type page on your website? We do. We have just a small page, you know, fill out this form and we'll get back to you. And we do have a 24-hour, I don't know, hotline that people can call, and that somebody live will, but you know, those are call center people, but the way in your demonstration, it was actual people that work, you know, might be working on their case. That's a big difference. People, I mean, I think most people figure that out. We're all savvy about call centers and phone things now. And I think we know when we're talking to somebody that knows something or somebody that's just, you know, going to pass it along.
Right. Billable resources. Right.
Right. Well, thank you. We appreciate that.
Thank you guys. Thanks for all this. You know, I was kind of a pain driving everybody nuts, so I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Just for Doug. Drive Doug.
No, it was fine. It was no big deal at all.
You know what? I think that is the best way to end this program. Like, that was thank you, Eric, so much for that feedback. That was such a great compliment and just a great evaluation. And, you know, I just want to thank everybody for being here and being a part of it. Like I said, this is the kickoff of the rebranded and relaunched Roundtable, and where we used to focus just on e-discovery, now the Roundtable's mission is to continue to produce workshops like this to emphasize the law about technology and also introduce technologies that make the practice of law more efficient. And so I really just thanks especially Dan and Ranji and Doug and Jeannie and Nick and Jay for all of the hard work that all of y'all put in for the last 8 weeks to get ready for this event. I think it was a spectacular success. Jeannie has posted a survey link in the chat in Zoom. I think we also have a survey link in the Tenant app, and then she's going to send you an email. So it would be really helpful to us if you will fill out that survey and let us know what you thought of the workshop, what you thought of the app, any feedback you have, new technologies that you want to learn about in the law, you know, so we can put together future programs for you. When we're able to come back in person, we will be coming. We've got certain cities lined up. We'll be there in person and do these. Our next virtual workshop is May 20th, 2021, and we're going to be talking about how to get ROI from your ECA, which is an e-discovery play. Our speaker is Alex Corey of Smith Gambrell, who is also a former Roundtable speaker from Atlanta, and also Thomson Reuters will be sponsoring that workshop. So As for us, RPC Strategies is our marketing and sales consulting firm. And then of course, the Roundtable is our workshop production company. We focus only in law and legal tech. I've personally been in law for about 30, not quite, close enough, almost 30 years. I know I don't look it, but I've been around for a while. So thank you everyone so much. We're available to you afterward. Please fill out the survey and let us know how we can help you. And we will see you soon.
Thanks all.
Great job, everybody.
Great job.
Yeah.
Thanks, Melissa. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you, guys.
Take care. Cheers.